The last time I spoke to my best friend's brother, we were standing in the garage drinking cheap beer and talking about nothing important, and when he said, "Take care of her for me," I just laughed. I didn't know that would be the last promise I ever got the chance to break. The last time I saw Danny, we were in his parents' garage in Bakersfield, California. It was late September, still hot enough to sweat even with the door open. The garage smelled like oil, grass clippings, and old dust. We were leaning against his dad's beat-up Ford Ranger drinking cheap beer out of cans, talking about nothing important, Raiders football, some girl he met 2 years ago, a fishing trip we kept saying we'd plan but never did. And then, out of nowhere, he turned and said, "Take care of her for me." I laughed, because I thought he was joking. "Take care of her?" I asked. "Like you're dying or something?" He didn't laugh back. He looked dead at me. "I'm serious, man. You're the only one I trust." He meant Leah, his little sister. The one I'd known since we were kids. The one he guarded like a pit bull. Leah was a year younger than me, and I'd always been around, birthday parties, school pickups, the whole nine. Danny used to joke that if I ever even looked at her the wrong way, he'd break both my legs. But when he said it that night, there was no joke in his voice. Just that heavy silence you don't forget. And I just said, "Yeah, man. Of course. Because what else do you say?" He shipped out a week later. Third deployment. This one was Afghanistan. He promised he'd be back by spring. He never made it. I got the call in line at the DMV. My phone buzzed and I saw Leah's name, but when I answered, it wasn't her voice. It was something cracked and hollow that only sounded like her.
"He's gone," she said.
That's it.
No build-up. No explanation. Just 2 words that gutted me.
I walked out of the building and threw up on the sidewalk. The funeral was held at Greenlawn. Full military honors. People I didn't know stood up to say how brave he was, what a hero he'd been. I just kept hearing him in my head. "Take care of her for me." That last promise. And so I did. At first, anyway. I was over at Leah's place almost every day. She'd moved into a small rental house in the Oleander neighborhood, one of those old single-story places with bad wiring and a lawn that was more weeds than grass. I fixed the garbage disposal, helped her install blackout curtains, and made sure she ate something every day. But grief doesn't have rules. Leah stopped answering texts. She'd sleep until 2 in the afternoon. I'd show up with food and find her still in pajamas with her hair unwashed, staring at the TV like it owed her money. She didn't want to talk about Danny. She didn't want to talk about anything. Then came Jake. She met him at some grief support group her therapist pushed her into. I hadn't even heard of the guy before he was suddenly everywhere, driving her car, answering her phone, making decisions like he belonged. Something about him rubbed me raw right away. Too smooth. Too practiced. I tried to stay civil. I really did. But it only took a couple of weeks before I couldn't take it anymore. We were at her place. I showed up to drop off a book Danny once marked up, something I thought might help her feel closer to him. Jake answered the door, smiling like a politician. Said Leah was resting. I asked if I could come in. "She's not really up for company today," he said, and started closing the door on me.
I shoved my foot in the gap.
"She's not a damn hostage, man." He smiled again, but there was something behind it now. "Don't make this harder than it has to be." I forced my way in. Leah was on the couch, pale and glassy-eyed. She blinked at me like she wasn't sure if I was real. I asked her what was going on, if she was okay. "I'm fine," she said, voice low. "Just tired." That's when I saw the bruise on her wrist.
Small. Faint.
But unmistakable. "What the hell is that?"
Jake said she fell.
Leah nodded like she was scared not to. My stomach dropped. After that, I started digging. He wasn't just some grieving widower. That was a lie. I found his real last name first. He'd changed it after a messy incident in Ohio. A suspension on his financial advisor license. A harassment suit from a former coworker. 2 ex-girlfriends who filed restraining orders and then disappeared from social media completely.
No convictions.
No smoking gun. But the pattern was clear.
I printed out everything I found.
I brought it to Leah in a manila envelope. She tore it in half without even looking.
You don't get to do this, she said.
You're not him. You're not Danny. It was like she'd slapped me. He asked me to look out for you. No, she snapped. He asked you to take care of me, not control me. Jake was standing in the doorway watching us with his arms crossed, smiling like he'd already won. After that, I stopped going over. I called sometimes, left messages. No answer. She started posting pictures with Jake on Facebook. Trips to the coast. Him cooking in her kitchen. Her wearing new clothes, new makeup, this fake new version of herself. I thought maybe I was wrong. Until the night she showed up at my door. Her left cheek was swollen. She had a split lip. She didn't say a word, just stood there shaking. I let her in. I didn't ask questions. But from that moment on, I knew I'd make Jake pay. I didn't care how long it took. Leah stayed in my place for a week. She barely spoke. I gave her space. She slept on the couch at first, then eventually moved to the spare room. Every time she heard a car door slam or someone knock too hard on a neighbor's door, she jumped. I asked her, gently, if she wanted to go to the police. No one's going to believe me, she said. He's smart. He makes me look crazy. She wasn't wrong. Jake had that act down cold. He could cry on cue, tell a story with just enough detail to sound real, and act hurt when someone doubted him. I knew it firsthand. And now I knew what he was really capable of. I started following him. I'm not proud of that, but I had no choice. He didn't seem to notice me. He'd go to the gym, then to some shared workspace downtown. He looked like a normal guy. Nothing shady on the surface. But one night, around 11 p.m., he drove out to an old strip mall in Oildale, parked behind a laundromat, and met with two guys I didn't recognize. They talked for about 20 minutes. One of them handed Jake an envelope.
Cash, maybe.
I got the license plate of one of the men and ran it through a contact I had in the county clerk's office. The guy had a sealed record, but the address linked to a rundown duplex with a history of domestic disturbance calls. One of those names popped up again 2 nights later when I followed Jake to a bar on the edge of town. Same guy, same weird meeting. That's when I realized Jake wasn't just abusive. He was dangerous. I told Leah what I'd seen. At first, she didn't believe me, didn't want to. But then I showed her the photos I'd taken. She stared at them for a long time, then said quietly, "I think he's been following me." I froze. "Since you moved in here?" She nodded. I thought I was paranoid. But my bedroom window was cracked open 2 nights ago. I always lock it. That was it for me. I filed a restraining order on her behalf. She was too afraid to go to court, so I used the photo evidence and reports I'd collected. I also dropped a tip to a buddy of mine who worked private security and had contacts with off-the-record investigators. I didn't care what it cost. We found out Jake wasn't even his real name. He was born Nathan Kellerman, had a criminal record under a different alias, and had moved across 5 states in 6 years. He'd been accused of identity theft once, but the case was dropped. His exes had all filed complaints, but he had countersued for defamation every time and won settlements. He was a ghost, legally slippery and damn near untouchable. But I wasn't interested in justice through the courts anymore. A week later, I staged a trap. Leah went back to her place. Just for a night. Just to make it look like she was trying to rebuild. Jake showed up around midnight. Broke in through the back door. I was waiting in the living room. When he saw me, he froze. "You think you're a hero?" he spat. "You're just some loser who can't move on." I didn't respond. I had a camera recording. He lunged. I hit him with a steel bat I'd tucked behind the couch. Just once. Just enough to knock him down. He started screaming, threats, lies, all of it. That's when Leah came out of the kitchen and said calmly, "I'm done being afraid of you." We called the cops. The evidence stuck this time. They found tools in his car, duct tape, rope, a burner phone with photos of Leah taken through her windows. He was charged with attempted breaking and entering, stalking, and illegal surveillance. But the real battle had just started. Jake's lawyer tried to spin it as a setup. He said Leah was mentally unstable, that I'd staged the whole thing. But then one of his old exes came forward. Then another. They flew in for the trial. told the same story Leah did. That was the beginning of the end for Jake. We thought we had him. After the second ex testified, her voice shaking as she talked about the time he locked her in a garage overnight, I saw Jake flinch for the first time. He still wore that smug smirk in the courtroom, but it was weaker now, forced. The prosecution was building momentum. Then, out of nowhere, the judge declared a delay. 2 weeks. Jake's lawyer filed a motion claiming unlawful entrapment based on my actions the night he broke into Leah's place. They claimed I'd provoked the incident and lured Jake in with the intent to attack him. Suddenly, I was being questioned. That's when everything started to fall apart. Leah was subpoenaed for questioning. They brought up her therapy records. How she was prescribed anti-anxiety meds, how she had a history of panic attacks, even something she said during one of her sessions about sometimes not knowing what's real. Jake's attorney twisted it to paint her as unstable, manipulative. They even tried to suggest she orchestrated the whole thing to get attention.
It was sick.
Worse, a day before the next court date, Leah went missing. I came home from work and found her car gone, her phone left behind on my kitchen table, and a note that said, "Don't come looking for me. It's safer this way." I called the cops. I called her therapist. I called everyone. For 3 days, nothing. I barely slept. I drove around town, retracing every place she might have gone. Her old apartment, Danny's grave, even the cliffs out near Kern River Canyon. I was starting to think the worst, that she gave up. That Jake had gotten in her head so deep, she believed she didn't deserve help. On the 4th day, I got a call. It was from a burner number. I answered it thinking it might be her. It wasn't. "You messed with the wrong man," the voice said. It was Jake.
Calm. Cold.
This could have been easy, but now it's personal. He hung up. That's when I realized he still had someone helping him. He was in jail, but someone out here was doing his dirty work, watching Leah, following me. Maybe even the same guy I saw at that laundromat in Oildale. Maybe more than one. I told the police, but they brushed it off. No proof. Just hearsay. So I did the only thing I could. I turned to someone I never thought I would. Danny's old army buddy, Chris. The one who never talked much at the funeral. Quiet guy. Big hands. Dead eyes. He'd been through worse than I could imagine. I called him and told him everything. He didn't ask questions. He just said, "Send me the address." That night, I met Chris in a Walmart parking lot off Rosedale Highway. He was sitting in a black SUV with out-of-state plates. He had maps, surveillance photos, and something I hadn't seen in a while, hope. "I've seen these kinds of guys before," he said. "You don't play defense with them. You make sure they never get up again." It wasn't a threat. It was a plan. We were going to find Leah. We were going to shut down whoever was helping Jake. And this time, we weren't going to wait for the system to catch up. Chris didn't waste time. Within hours, he tracked the burner number Jake used. It pinged near a remote property on the outskirts of Arvin, about 30 minutes southeast of Bakersfield. Isolated. No neighbors close by. One road in, one road out. We drove out that night. The plan was simple. Get eyes on the place, see if Leah was there, and get her out. No confrontation unless necessary.
Chris was calm.
Focused. I, on the other hand, was shaking with rage and guilt. I'd made promises I couldn't keep. I failed Danny. I failed Leah. But I was done failing now. The property was a rundown house with a detached garage and an old RV parked near a tree line. No lights on, but Chris had night vision gear. We parked a few 100 feet out, behind a line of overgrown bushes. He spotted movement inside the RV. We waited. Around midnight, a man came out, same guy from the laundromat. Tall, scruffy, wearing a hoodie. He stepped out to smoke, looked around, and then went back inside. That's when Chris whispered, "She's in there." I saw her silhouette in the back window. He handed me a radio and said, "I'll go around the other side. When I give the word, you move in fast." I nodded. My chest was pounding. Every second felt like 100. Then, over the radio, "Now." I ran. I reached the RV door, just as Chris tackled the man from behind. A short scuffle, then silence. I yanked the door open and climbed in. Leah was tied to the built-in bench in the back, her face bruised, duct tape across her mouth. I ripped it off. It's me. You're okay now. I got you. She started sobbing, couldn't speak for a minute. I cut the rope from her wrists. She collapsed into my arms. Behind me, I heard Chris zip-tie the guy's wrists and toss him into the dirt. We got Leah in the SUV and drove straight to a hospital in town. She had a mild concussion, 2 cracked ribs, and bruises up and down her back. The nurse said if we hadn't found her that night, she might not have made it through another. The man we caught, name was Ray Morrison. Turns out he'd served time for assault in Nevada and was connected to Jake through a private gun club in Arizona. He confessed everything. Said Jake had called in favors, promised money, claimed Leah had stolen from him and needed to be kept in line. That was enough. Jake's bail was revoked. His trial went federal. He ended up with charges for conspiracy to commit kidnapping, abuse, harassment, and several counts of witness tampering. He got 38 years. But the damage was done. Leah couldn't go back to her old life. She moved to Oregon, changed her name, started over. I helped her move. We hugged for a long time before I left. She said, I don't know if I'd still be here without you.
I didn't know what to say.
I think about Danny a lot. About how I laughed when he said, take care of her for me. Like it was something simple. Something I could do without bleeding for it. I tried, man. I really did. And in the end, I kept the promise. But it cost us both more than I ever thought it would.